Garden Doctor was originally recorded Wednesday morning and is a paid presentation of Jung's Garden Center. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Good Karma Brands, its management, and its employees.
Good morning and welcome to another Garden Doctor program. And I understand, is it Big Brother or Little Brother?
Little brother.
Little brother. Bob Sundae is joining us. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, John.
All right. How was
Did you have a good birthday?
I had a very nice birthday. Thank you very much for remembering. I didn't get your card, though.
No, you're never here.
I know it. I'm always on vacation.
I know. You intentionally do that, don't you?
I think I do. Yeah, subconsciously, but intentionally.
I did see William this morning and wished him a happy birthday early.
Oh, very good, very good. Yeah, we have a lot of October birthdays in this radio station. When is your birthday?
Mine is in June, but my wife's has a birthday on the 23rd, just a couple days from now.
Wow. Are you going to treat her something special? Or?
Yeah, we're not gonna celebrate. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna celebrate her 39th birthday again.
Oh yeah. How many has it been now? Anyway.
I'm not permitted to say.
That's right. Somebody will do the math. Yeah. But anyway, thank you for joining us. Of course, Bob Zondag from Jung Garden Center in Randolph is here to answer your gardening questions at 885-4446. And I believe this is the last show of the fall session, correct?
I'm not positive. I was just asked to come here, and they don't let me know a heck of a lot.
Oh, okay. They kind of keep you in the dark like a good mushroom.
Yes, I grow very well as a mushroom.
Yes. Yeah, I do believe it. I do believe that Dick said this would be the last show, but don't hold me to that. But anyway, what's happening at the store these days, Bob?
Well, it is a great time to go purchase things because they have 40% off of all the shrubs and the trees and the perennials and the fruits that they have there. I'm going there myself this afternoon to purchase a couple of trees I'm going to plant today.
Do you get the employee discount at all?
I hope so. I hope so. It's questionable whether they even remember me, so I hope so.
Well, talk about the selection of things you have over there.
Well, you know what they have is a lot of wonderful bulbs. If you're looking for spring color, now's time to plant the spring blooming bulbs. They have a big collection of tulips and alliums and daffodils and frulariums and hyacinths and crocus and scilla and what have you. The largest selection probably in Wisconsin. They also have a good selection of like I say, fruits, trees, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. One thing we should talk about today is the fertilization of your lawns.
Right.
The lawns do not go dormant in the winter. Most people don't understand this. The lawns don't go dormant in the winter. They do slow to a very, very slow a growth period, but they do not go dormant in the winter. And therefore, the most important feeding of the lawn is right now to put down a good winterizer. The winterizer is strong in potassium, and that last number on the bag, and that gives strength to your lawn to carry it through the winter. And so the most stressful time is when we dump leaves on our lawn, we dump snow on our lawn, and so this is the most important time of the year to keep your grass in good shape. So I always tell people the most important feedings right now. Also, right now is a great time. We're going to get a frost one of these days. It's been very kind to us so far. But right after you have a first frost, it's a great time to put down the weed killer, to kill the dandelions, the creeping Charlie, the wood violets, all that other broadleaf stuff that grows in your lawn and you hate. Now would be the great time to get a Weed Beater Ultra. You have to get a type that it can be put down in cool weather because a lot of these, they have to have 72 degrees to work. But the Weed Beater Ultra is designed for cold weather grasses like we have up here, and it will kill your creeping Charlie and your dandelions and like all the other broadleaves in your lawn. So this is a great time and a good time to do it. The other thing that is right now is garlic. If you grow garlic, it's best to plant it in the fall. And I know the seed company has about 7 to 10 different varieties of garlic. So if you're going to plant garlic, right now is a great time to plant it.
Again, 885-4446, the number to call. If you want to be on the air with Bob Zondag and answer your gardening questions. Now, trees grow dormant in winter. How come grass doesn't?
You got me. I just understand that it doesn't. You have got two different type of grasses that essentially it's divided in. You have cold or cool weather grasses and you have warm weather grasses.
Okay.
So like the southern part of the United States would have warm weather grasses, and those grasses grow best in hot weather. Up here, of course, we have cool weather grasses, and they grow best in the spring and in the fall. You will notice now that grass is growing very nicely because you get those cool evenings, and so it's cool enough that the grass grows. When it gets hot in the summer, they actually go dormant. That's why everyone thinks the grass has died, you know. You get the hot weather and it goes dormant, and everyone thinks that they die. And everyone starts watering the heck out of the lawn, and then it greens up again. It greens up mainly because you cool the ground with that colder water, not because the grass needs that much water. Grass needs about an inch of water a week, but the reason that these people that are fortunate enough to have irrigation system have green grass is mainly because the water cools the temperature of the soil.
Okay, very good. Well, we got a couple of callers waiting in the wings here, so let's go to the phones. You're on the air with the garden doctor, Bob Zondag from Jung Garden Center.
Hey, Bob. I got one question for you. I'm getting ready to plant my garlic. What should I do? Should I mix any sort of fertilizer or mulch in with that soil before I put them bulbs in there, or what?
Yeah, it would help. It being a bulb, it would like, a regular 10-10-10. It is a fairly heavy feeder, but garlic itself is pretty easy to grow and probably grow irregardless of what you did, but the fertilizer would help.
Okay, so I have some of that 10-10-10. Should I just mix it in with the soil then and then plant my bulbs? That's your suggestion?
Right. The other thing to do is make sure you plant in an area where water does not stand. I've seen more garlic killed off by moisture standing on it than anything else. So plant it in a well-drained area, some area where the moisture is not going to stand on it.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your call. Let's go to the other line, 885-4446, the number to call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning. Hey, Bob, a couple quick questions on what you're talking about with grass. You said something about, with the leaves and the snow, pressing grass. I was told mulching the leaves up is actually good. Why would that stress the grass?
No. The problem with when I would talk to kids, and that's usually who they allow me to talk to at the seed company, kindergarten, first graders, they don't allow me much more than that. But I always stress that one of the most important things for a lawn is sun. And what happens with the leaves? They cut off the sun. Now, if you're going to mulch with leaves, you should grind them up so they're fine. You'll run a lawnmower over, grind them up in some manner. You do not want to leave the leaves whole, because what they do is they compact and they cut off the oxygen to the soil. Also in the spring, I always emphasize to people, they're always wondering what caused these pockets in the grass that are kind of dead. And if they think back to last fall where they didn't rake, or think the last fall where the leaves sort of gathered, that's what has happened. It has cut off the sun and then has cut off the oxygen to the soil where the leaves lay. So never mulch with leaves unless you grind them into small particles so that it leaves some air through them.
Okay. And then I actually was wanting to put down, I got like some winterizer with weed control in it. Would it be okay to put it down today before the rain comes, or should I wait for...
Actually, if you have a fertilizer with weed control in it, you want to put it down when the grass is moist. The thing that kills the broadleaves is that herbicide attaching itself to the leaf itself. So most people make the mistake with a one that has herbicide in it to put it on a dry grass. That's when you put most fertilizers down. But if you have got the herbicide in it, you want to put it down when the grass is a little moist, because that herbicide then will stick to the leaf and then it will kill the broadleaf. If you put it when it's dry, more than likely it's going to just bounce to the ground. It's not going to do what you want it to do.
Okay. And then you were saying that last number was the most important on it. I noticed on the stuff I got that the first number was really high, like at 29 or something like that.
Well, grass needs a lot of nitrogen to grow, and if you're going to be fertilizing in the spring, that's perfectly okay. Or if you're going to fertilize in the last part of August, first part of September, that's fine. You want to stimulate the growth, but as you go into the winter, it isn't as important to have that nitrogen. That's why the potassium, the last number, is important. And so I would look for something that has got a slow release nitrogen and something that has a little more potassium. Now, when you're talking about having a herbicide or a broadleaf killer in your fertilizer, I have not really seen a lot of fertilizer that does both.
Okay.
Okay? Potassium is important because it gives structure to grass, and like I say, through the winter, it's real important that it has that structure.
Okay. And then my last question, at your store, do you sell horseradish root, I guess, whatever you need to grow it, and when would you plant that?
You would plant it in the spring, and yes, we do sell it. But you have to be aware of the fact that horseradish is an aggressive grower, so plant it someplace you can control it.
Okay, and you plant it in the spring.
You plant it in the spring, right, and it is a root.
All right. Hey, thank you so much, Bob.
You're welcome.
All right, this is The Garden Doctor here on WBEV. We're streaming live on dailydodge.com video and here on 1430 radio. 885-4446 is the number to call. Let's go to the other line. And you are on the air with Bob Zondag.
Hi. I'm just wondering, when is the best time to cut back blackberries, thornless, and how far do you cut them?
That is a good question. You know what type of blackberry it is?
All I know is a blackberry that's thornless, and it runs rampant.
Yes, they are bramblers. The blackberries, if the tip of the blackberries touches the ground, it will produce another berry for
Yes.
you. And so you want to keep the tips up. And the other thing, of course, is they do bramble, they do spread. I would, they're basically what you'd want to do is trim out any of the canes that bore fruit this year, and then thin out the other primal canes, the new canes. The ones that bore fruit this year are dead. They aren't going to bear it next year. The new cane, the primal cane, will bear the fruit the following year.
Oh, I guess we lost connection. Go ahead. Bob.
No. There are a couple different types of, like for instance, with raspberries, you have the everbearing and you have the summer bearing. And the thing about summer bearing is they bear on second year growth. And so what you're doing every year is you're trimming out the ones that bore fruit because they won't bear fruit again, and you're leaving the primal canes and you're thinning those out. With the everbearing, they bear on new cane, and so every year you're pruning them back to 4 to 5 inches because they're going to be bearing fruit in the fall on the new cane. With the blackberries, most of the blackberries are summer bearing, and so they bear on second year growth.
All right, we do have another caller checking in. You are on the air. Oh, lost that one. You're on the air with Bob Zondag from Jung Garden Center.
Yeah, the rabbits are eating my asparagus. They go up about 8 inches and they chop it off and then they eat the tops. Is that going to hurt it at all this fall?
No, it won't hurt it. It won't help it neither because you depend upon some of that growth to rejuvenate the root. But no, it shouldn't. Smith & Wesson's real good for that.
Yeah. Is there anything else I could use besides that?
Yeah, there are a number of different things that you can spray on that will deter deer and rabbits and what have you. Also, you could sprinkle down dried blood, which has got a good nitrogen, will help the asparagus patch, and rabbits, of course, don't like that. But the problem with the dried blood is that it will dissipate with rain, so you have to continually do that for a while.
That spray or stuff you put on, can I put that right on the asparagus or just around it?
You could, as long as it is done bearing fruit, You know, as long as you're not harvesting the asparagus anymore, you can put it right on the asparagus itself.
Okay.
But you wouldn't want to put it on the edible part.
All right. Then I planted a wild geranium, and it's getting pretty big. Does that spread quite fast, and will it kill off other flower plants?
A wild geranium does, depending upon the variety, spreads fairly fast, and yeah, it will create a mat covering. It will be like a ground cover and can kill off other things. Normally, a lot of the other perennials will just grow through it, and it's very pretty. I mean, it's got that lacy leaf, you know.
Yeah.
So it sort of depends upon the variety. There's a lot of different varieties of the wild geranium.
Is that better to plant it like under trees or something in the shade, or?
It will take some shade, but it grows best in sun.
Okay,
And
thank
and you can take a head shears to it if it gets too tall. Don't be afraid to trim it. Some varieties get fairly tall, and what I do after it's done blossoming is take my head shears to them and trim it to a reasonable level.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for your call, 885-4446. The number to get on the air with Bob Zondag from Jung Garden Center in Randolph, about halfway through the show. And let's go to our next caller. You're on with Bob Zondag.
Hey, Bob. I got a couple questions. Asparagus, can I fertilize it again this time of year? And also, when do you cut back the tops?
I would cut back the tops when they die back. One of the problems this fall is we had this gorgeous fall with a lot of beautiful weather, and I know a lot of people have trimmed back their perennial gardens when they had that first little cold air snap. And what happens if you trim them back too quickly, they will start growing again. And of course, that uses energy from the root rather than going to the root. It's producing new growth. So I would prune it probably toward, I noticed Dick was saying, well, go ahead and prune it. He didn't think it was going to hurt anything, but I personally wouldn't prune it until toward the end of this month, end of next month. I mean, middle to end of next month.
Okay, how about fertilizing it again? Just leave it till spring, or?
Yeah, I would, unless you're going to put down something that's, asparagus, like a number of things, is a root crop, and so if you wanted to put something down that had that middle number, which is it's phosphate. I'm sorry.
Phosphate.
And that helps with rooting, and it also helps with blooming, but in this case, you're using it for rooting. But if you wanted to put down a 10-10-10, you certainly could. It is not going to hurt anything. I might wait, like I say, until the middle of next month so that you're putting it down and it'd be available for next spring. You aren't trying to stimulate growth this fall anymore. But you could put it down the middle of next month when the plant is solidly dormant, and it would help for next spring.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, 885-4446, the number to call. And let's go back to the phones. You're on the air with the Garden Doctor.
Hi, I have a twist and shout hydrangea, and I am not getting blooms on it.
Well, as my dad said, you probably planted it upside down. No, I'm just kidding you.
I know.
What I would do is and this fall, you could put down phosphate. Phosphate, like I was just telling the other gentleman, is the blooming element. But you could also do it early next spring. And then you could water with a water-soluble blooming and rooting type fertilizer. And this should stimulate the blooming on your... Now, do you cut it down every year?
I've done both because I thought I would try both, and I still haven't gotten...
Yeah, you don't want to cut it down.
Okay.
Okay? A lot of hydrangeas, and I sometimes I hate talking about hydrangeas because there's so many different varieties. And some, like the snowball hydrangea, you can cut down in the fall and it comes back next year and it gives you wonderful blooms. And you do well by trimming it now and then. A lot of the other varieties bloom on second-year wood. And so when you're pruning it down, you're actually getting new canes the following year, which won't give you the bloom. So what I would do is to not prune it and then fertilize it with some phosphate the following spring.
Okay, and then I have strawberry Sundae hydrangea,
Mm-hmm.
and that one bloomed. But now, do I cut that down?
No.
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 Okay.
Strawberry Sundae is similar to the twist and shout, and so no, don't cut that down. You can prune it to if it's getting unmanageable or anything, but
Yeah.
I would not cut it down.
So prune, how much would I take off?
Well, I would prune just for the shape of it rather than anything else.
Okay. Okay.
And it isn't something you have to cut down. It's something that you prune for shape if you need to.
For the shape. Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye. And again, 885-4446 is the number to call. Yeah, we have that same type of hydrangea too, Bob, but we seem to get big gaps in it. You know, I'll see other hydrangea bushes and they're all just one big ball, which looks wonderful, but ours kind of forms gaps and goes off in different directions. Is there anything you can do about that?
Yeah, by pruning it, you're going to, every time you prune a plant, it's going to send out new shoots, and normally 2 or 3 where it was pruned.
Okay.
And so if you want to fill in a gap, you want to prune that, and that will start to fill it in. That's why they prune hedges and prune various plants, is you're trying to stimulate growth. And so by pruning it, and that's why you should never prune in the fall, by the way.
Okay.
You don't want to stimulate growth on plants, and by
Right.
pruning it, you stimulate growth. And so by you pruning it, you should be able to fill in those gaps.
Okay. 885-4446, 1920. 885-4446. How should we be handling roses now? Cut them back or
No.
no? Just leave them still?
Roses have a hard time going dormant. So
Oh, okay.
right now, you should be doing nothing
Okay.
with them. You don't want to do anything with roses until toward the end of November. If you have got hardy roses, you can just lasso around them and tie them into a bundle. If you have non-hardy roses, toward the end of November, you should cover them with soil. Good way of doing that is take an old ice cream bucket and cut the bottom out of it, put it around, slide it over the top of the roses after you gather the bunches together, and then put 8 to 10 inches of soil around the bottom of them. That way, if the shoots are killed off, you have got the root the stalks down below that will regenerate the growth for you.
Okay. And by now, we should, switching to lilacs, we should have already pruned them because they grow back in the summer. How does that work?
Yes, anything that blooms in the spring, you prune immediately after it's done blooming.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you prune lilacs now, you're pruning off next year's
By now,
flowers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like magnolias, azaleas, lilacs, anything that blooms in the spring, you want to prune right after they're done blooming. And otherwise, you're going to be cutting off the blooms. They're already set.
885-4446. We have about 5 minutes left to go in the show. If you want to sneak in a call to Bob Zondag from Jung Garden Center in Randolph. Did we have any problems this year with any certain critters or moles or voles? What do you anticipate maybe in the winter that might create problems? And how is the emerald ash borer situation going?
Well, let's talk about the first thing.
Okay.
There is a critter named vold. It's a combination of mold and a mouse. And they seem to cycle in periods of like every 5 to 7 years. If you see volds or mice or what have you in an abundance of numbers, it's really important that you get out and deter them. Because what happens with them is they will burrow. Actually, they don't burrow. They're above ground. They sometimes use mold's tunnels, but they normally are above ground. They will go to like your junipers or trees, fruit trees or whatever, and they will live there for the winter. And they do more damage than what the rabbits do. They will sit there and will eat the bark all the way around the tree, all the way, up about 5 to as far as they can eat. And they will girdle trees. They will girdle your junipers. They will girdle anything that they're living in. So you really should be checking now to make sure that you don't have the vold problem.
Okay.
Because it really can be disastrous. I know that I have a brother-in-law and sister live in Oregon, Wisconsin, and he's been trapping these things all summer long I think at last count he had about 35 that he has killed in his garden.
Wow.
And so I know that they're going to have a real problem in that area with the voles this year because the numbers are way, way up. I have not seen that around Beaver Dam where I live, but you should check to see if you see anything there. Now, after the winter's over, you can tell that you had voles because it looks like you had molds. The grass is raised throughout your lawn. There's like little paths through your lawn. Mm-hmm. If you examine it, it doesn't go under the soil. It just pushes the grass up as they go. And that's how you can tell you had voles. But you want to find them before winter because they can cause a lot of damage, especially with fruit trees and junipers and things like this. They will just sit there and will girdle the plants. And all of a sudden, if you don't find it in the spring, all of a sudden when a tree should be blooming out, they may get their bloom, like on a flowering crab, they may get their bloom, but then they start dying back. And when you take a look around the trunk, you see where the voles have girdled it.
Okay. We do have another caller. We have time for at least one more call. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air with the garden doctor, Bob Zondag.
Yeah, I'm wondering, on the climbing rose bushes, do I dare cut those back, like you said, November? Can I cut any rose bush back? Because it's a rose bush, but it grew. I have two of them, a climbing, and then another one that isn't a climbing, but it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Do I dare cut those back?
You certainly can cut them back. The thing about the climbers, and I don't know what kind of climber you have. You have hardy climbers, and you have some that are semi-hardy, some that aren't very hardy at all. Depending upon the variety that you have, sort of depends upon what you should do. If you have a hardy climber, no problem, you can cut it back. I would cut it back to maybe 10, 12 inches from the ground if you really want to, cut it way back. Otherwise, just prune it so it's in the shape that you want.
Okay.
If it's a semi-hardy one, they normally bloom on second-year growth, and if you prune them each year, they aren't going to have blooms on the following year. And so if I knew the variety, I could help you as far as how you should prune them.
I've had it a while, and it's very hardy.
Okay. Well, then
can cut it back, and it still just goes huge.
Okay. Well, then there shouldn't be any problem with it.
Okay.
I would cut it back. If you have any question about the hardiness, you certainly can do that with the soil, to cover it with the soil to make sure it comes back. I have one that I grow as a climber, and it's only supposed to be about 6 feet tall, but it's a semi-hardy, and that I cover with one layer of burlap. I wrap a layer of burlap around the canes. It's on a trellis, and I wrap a layer of burlap around the canes, because if I cut it back, then I don't get blooms the following year.
Okay.
As far as the other rows, the same thing applies. If it's hardy, just take a rope and tie it together so the canes are together, and if it's too tall, go ahead and prune it to a height that's reasonable for you, and it should come back. If you have any question, then cover with soil. Never hurts, even the hardy ones, that you cover them with soil, and away you go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, will do.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the call. And, of course, you've been watching the program, The Garden Doctor, on Daily Dodge Video this morning, and, of course, here on 1430 WBEV. Bob, thanks for thanks for your expertise, and also, why don't you tell us about the store hours? You guys got 4 stores now, or is it 3?
We have 5 stores.
5? I was wrong either way. Go ahead.
The Randolph store is the one that most people around here are familiar with, and they're open 8 to 4 Monday through Saturday. Of course, they're never open on Sunday there.
Okay.
The other stores, Sun Prairie, 2 in Madison, 1 in Stevens Point, are open from 10 to 5 Monday through Saturday, and on Sunday they're open 10 to 4. Now, the other one that most people in Beaver Dam area would be familiar with is the Sun Prairie store, which is real easy to get to because you just drive to Sun Prairie and the first exit you get off, and there it is. And so at all the stores, we're having the 40% off the shrubs and the trees and the perennials. Like I said, I'm going to go buy a couple of trees today myself, and I'm going to be planting them. The selection of spring blooming bulbs is a good selection this year. They got in late, so they have a fairly good amount of them. They have some bulk tulips that are really a good buy. These are the oversized bulbs that they sell in bulk, and you usually can get a good buy on those. They also have fertilizer. They have grass. Now is a good time to plant grass. The fall usually has a lot of moisture, and you can get it in and start growing. And next spring you will have a nice amount of grass growing for you. That's the way it's going, John.
All right. Well, thank you very much for stepping in, Bob. And I'll do a double check on this being the last show. But,
Okay.
Thank you for lending your expertise.
You're welcome, John. It's always a good time.
All right. And that'll do it for the Garden Doctor Show for today.
Preceding